If you still believe that working hard is the path to wealth, that might be exactly what's keeping you stuck. Sounds contradictory, right? Because that's what you've been told your entire life, that the harder you work, the more you deserve to earn. But the reality is uncomfortable. Millions of people work hard every single day and stay in the exact same financial place. So here's the question almost no one dares to ask. What if the problem isn't a lack of effort? There's a truth about money that very few people talk about. The financial game doesn't reward those who work the hardest. It rewards those who understand the rules. And if you've never learned about financial mindset, financial education, and how wealth is actually built, you might be playing the wrong game without even realizing it. It's not about how much you work. It's about where you're putting your energy. And here's the part that might hit you. Working hard can, yes, give you stability, but it will rarely give you financial freedom, because effort without financial strategy is just accumulated exhaustion. Meanwhile, there are people using leverage, building assets, and creating passive income, making money work for them while their time stays free. And no, that's not luck, it's understanding. But relax, this doesn't mean you need to stop working hard. Quite the opposite. What you need is to stop wasting effort on the wrong things. Because when you learn how to align effort with intelligence, everything starts to change, and fast. And that's exactly what you're about to start seeing from now on.
Since you were young, you heard that phrase almost like a universal law. Work hard and you'll succeed in life. And honestly, you believed it. You woke up early, pulled all-nighters, accepted exhaustion as part of the process, and kept going without questioning much. But over time, some things started to feel off. Even with all that effort, your financial life didn't seem to move forward. That's when that silent doubt appeared. What if the problem isn't working too little, but working the wrong way? When you start paying closer attention, you notice a pattern most people ignore. Extremely dedicated people, disciplined to the limit, but stuck in a routine that doesn't generate real financial growth. At the same time, others, who don't even seem to work that much, are consistently building wealth. This breaks every logic you've learned so far. And this is exactly the point where your financial mindset starts to be truly challenged. The turning point happens when you realize that effort alone doesn't build wealth. It may sound strange at first, even unfair, but it's reality. The money game doesn't reward who works the hardest, it rewards who creates the most value intelligently. And this has everything to do with financial psychology, with how you make decisions and see opportunities. It's not about sweating more, it's about thinking better before acting. And here comes a subtle but powerful shift. When you start questioning the direction of your effort, everything changes. You begin to realize that working hard on something that doesn't scale is like running on a treadmill, exhausting, but it doesn't move you forward. Real financial education isn't just about saving money or cutting expenses. It's about learning to build assets, generate passive income, and make money work for you. And that requires an internal shift before any external action. But there's something almost no one tells you. Even understanding all this, many people remain stuck in the same cycle because they've never stopped to look at the invisible limit of their own time. And when you finally see that limit clearly, you realize there's a barrier that hard work alone simply cannot cross. And that's exactly where the next point starts to make even more sense.
There's a simple truth that many people avoid facing. Your time is limited. No matter how hard you try, your day will always have the same 24 hours. And when your income depends directly on your time, in other words, your active income, you automatically create an invisible ceiling for how much you can earn. You can increase your income with more hours, more effort, but there comes a point where it simply doesn't work anymore. And this is one of the biggest blind spots of those who haven't developed a more strategic financial mindset yet. You've probably felt this in real life, working more, taking on more responsibilities, even getting a raise. But in the end, the real difference in your financial life is small. It feels like effort grows much faster than the return. That's because you're still playing a game where you trade time for money. And in this model, no matter how much you evolve, there's always a physical limit that can't be ignored. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a maximum capacity. No matter how much you insist, it won't expand on its own. Now think about this. If every hour of your time equals money, what happens when you stop working? The income stops with it. And that's where a fundamental concept of financial education comes in. Financial freedom doesn't come from working more, but from depending less on your time. And that only happens when you start creating income sources that don't require your constant presence. Of course, that requires a shift in perspective that goes against everything you've learned so far. What's most interesting is that the traditional system never taught you to question this. On the contrary, it reinforces the idea that the more you work, the more you deserve to earn. But the market doesn't work like that. It doesn't pay for your exhaustion or effort. It pays for the value you create, and most importantly, the scale of that value. And here, a new type of thinking begins to emerge, much more aligned with long-term wealth building. And when you begin to understand this limit clearly, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, how can I work more? And start thinking, how can I earn more without depending so much on my time? This simple change in question completely transforms the game. But there's a dangerous detail in this process, because often you think you're evolving, when in reality, you're just becoming busier. And that's exactly what we're going to break down in the next point.
There's a silent trap that holds many people back without them realizing it: the illusion of productivity. You spend the entire day busy, solving 1,000 things, answering messages, attending meetings, running from one place to another, and at the end, you even feel a certain relief for having done a lot. But when you look at your financial life, nothing has really changed. That's because being busy is not the same as making progress. And understanding this difference is a turning point in your financial mindset. The problem is that your brain loves this feeling of movement. It feels like you're moving forward, but in reality, many of these tasks don't create real value. They keep you busy, but don't help you build wealth, develop assets, or significantly increase your income. It's like pedaling fast on a stationary bike. You get tired, you sweat, you feel effort, but you stay in the same place. Financial psychology explains this well. Humans tend to confuse effort with progress. Now, here's the part most people don't want to hear. The market doesn't reward how hard you work. It rewards the impact you create. You can work 12 hours a day on something that doesn't scale and earn less than someone who worked 2 hours creating something with high perceived value. A simple example: someone who learns a high-value skill, like sales, programming, or content creation, can generate exponential results with less time. That's financial strategy in practice. When you start to see this, your behavior begins to change. You become more selective about what's worth doing. Instead of accepting every task, you start asking, does this actually bring me closer to financial freedom, or is it just filling my time? And this question, as simple as it sounds, is incredibly powerful because it forces you out of autopilot and into a more conscious level of decision-making. But here's the most interesting part. When you stop fooling yourself with false productivity, a new space opens, a space when you begin to look for smarter ways to grow without relying only on your direct effort. And that's exactly when a concept comes in that completely changes the wealth-building game, something very few people truly master: leverage. This is where the game truly changes. While most people are still stuck in the logic of working more to earn more, there's another path being quietly used by those who consistently build wealth: leverage. And maybe no one has ever explained this clearly to you, but leverage is basically the ability to multiply results without increasing effort in the same proportion. It's one of the strongest pillars of an advanced financial mindset, and at the same time, one of the most ignored. Leverage can happen in many ways. Technology, for example, allows you to reach thousands or millions of people with a single piece of content.
Capital allows your money to work for you through investments. And people, perhaps the most powerful of all, allow you to multiply results through teams, partnerships, or businesses. An entrepreneur, for example, doesn't grow by working more hours, but by building systems where other people and resources work alongside them. That's financial strategy in action. And this is where assets come in, another fundamental concept of financial education. Assets are anything that puts money in your pocket without directly depending on your time. It can be an investment that generates dividends, a business that runs even when you're not present, or even content that keeps generating revenue over time. Unlike active income, which requires your constant presence, assets work in the background, creating passive income and opening space for financial freedom. A simple example: imagine someone who works every day to earn money, active income, and another person who invests initial time building something, like a channel, a digital product, or financial assets that continues generating returns over time. At first, the effort might even seem greater, but over time, results begin to multiply without requiring the same level of energy. This completely changes the relationship with money and time. When you begin to understand this, you realize the game was never about working less, but about building something that works for you. And this shift isn't just technical, it's deeply mental. Because at the core, all of this starts with how you see the world, money, and opportunities. And that's where a massive difference appears between those stuck in effort and those who start multiplying results intelligently.
Now it becomes even clearer why two people living in the same reality can have completely different results. The difference isn't just in what they do, but in how they think. On one side, there's a financial mindset focused on effort, working more hours, sacrificing more, believing the next level always requires more exhaustion. On the other side, there's a mindset focused on strategic growth, where the focus isn't doing more, it's doing better, with intelligence. Those stuck in the first pattern tend to believe the only way out is to increase effort. More hours, more tasks, more exhaustion. But this creates a dangerous cycle. The more you work, the less time you have to think, learn, and evolve. Without realizing it, you get trapped in a loop where effort increases but financial results don't follow. Financial psychology explains this as conditioned behavior. You repeat what worked in the short term, even if it limits you in the long term. On the other hand, those who start developing a wealth mindset completely shift their focus. Instead of asking, "What else can I do?" they start asking, "What actually matters to do?" This person seeks to build systems, processes, and ways to scale results. They understand that building assets, generating passive income, and applying financial strategy are more efficient paths than simply working more. It's a subtle shift in the question, but with a massive impact on life. A practical example is someone who decides to learn high-value skills that increase their market value, like sales, investing, or building digital businesses. Instead of using all their time just working, they invest part of their energy into financial education and personal growth. At first, it may seem like they're doing less, but over time, results begin to multiply much more consistently. That's playing the right game, not just playing harder. And when you observe this difference closely, something unsettling becomes clear. It's not a lack of effort that keeps someone stuck, it's insisting on the wrong kind of effort. But there's an even deeper detail, something that traps many people even after they understand all this, a silent, almost invisible behavior that keeps them valuing exactly what limits them the most. There's a mistake that goes unnoticed by most people, and you may have fallen into it without realizing it. It's the pride of extreme effort. That feeling that the more you suffer, the more you deserve to win. That working to exhaustion is a sign of commitment, honor, character. And at first, it even seems admirable. But in practice, this type of financial mindset might be keeping you exactly where you are, because you start valuing effort for the sake of effort, not the results it produces. Over time, this becomes identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who hustles hard, who never stops, who is always pushing. And this creates a powerful psychological trap, because unconsciously, you begin to avoid smarter, more strategic paths because they seem too easy or too fast. Financial psychology shows that many people sabotage their own growth because they associate suffering with deserving success, as if making money in a lighter way were wrong, when in reality, that's exactly what builds real wealth. And along with this pride of effort comes another even more dangerous problem: lack of financial strategy. You dedicate yourself, you work hard, but on things that don't scale, don't build assets, don't generate passive income. It's like putting all your energy into pushing a wall. You get tired, you sweat, you feel productive, but nothing moves. And worse, the more time passes, the harder it becomes to leave this cycle because you've already invested too much energy into it. A common example is someone who spends years focused only on increasing active income without ever stopping to learn about investing, business, or asset building. This person may improve their life, but remains trapped in the need to constantly work. Meanwhile, someone who dedicates time to developing financial intelligence gradually builds income sources that don't depend on continuous effort. And over time, this difference becomes massive. When you start seeing this clearly, it creates discomfort because you realize you may have invested energy in the wrong things for too long. But at the same time, it opens a powerful opportunity, because from that moment on, you can keep working hard, but in a completely different direction. And this shift, as simple as it may seem, is what separates those who only hustle from those who actually build wealth.
The truth is, the problem was never working hard. It was working hard without direction. Once you understand this, everything starts reorganizing in your mind. Effort is still important, but now it needs to be aligned with a clear financial strategy. It no longer makes sense to spend energy on activities that don't build assets, don't increase passive income, and don't contribute to financial freedom. Hard work is still part of the game, but now you start choosing which game you're playing. This means you begin to prioritize different things. Instead of just executing tasks, you invest time in high-value learning. Financial education stops being optional and becomes a priority. You start studying investments, understanding how money works, learning skills that increase your market value. Books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, for example, can open your perspective on money in ways school never did, and that completely transforms your financial mindset. Another important shift is how you use your energy. Instead of applying brute force to everything, you begin to think more strategically. Questions like, does this scale? Or can this generate income in the future without depending on me? Start guiding your decisions. It could be starting a digital project, investing in assets that generate returns over time, or developing a skill that allows higher earnings with less direct effort. This is replacing effort with intelligence, and that's what truly accelerates results. At first, it may feel strange. It might even feel like you're doing less, but in reality, you're doing better, because you're leaving autopilot and starting to act with intention. Financial psychology shows that this phase is crucial. It's where you stop reacting to life and start building it consciously. And little by little, the results begin to reflect this new way of thinking and acting. And when you reach this point, you realize it was never about working less or more, but about working right. But there's something even more important that connects all of this. Something that can either accelerate or completely block your progress, depending on how you use it. And that becomes even clearer when you look at everything we've discussed from a new perspective.
Now, let me ask you a very direct question. Are you actually closer to financial freedom, or just getting more tired? Because after all of this, it's hard to ignore one fact. It's not about how much you work, it's about how you think, decide, and direct your energy. Is your financial mindset leading you toward growth, or keeping you stuck in a cycle of effort without evolution? And here's another important reflection. How many times have you felt proud of being exhausted, but saw no real results in your money? Are you valuing effort or the results that truly matter? Because as long as you keep investing energy in the wrong things, nothing really changes. But the moment you start applying financial strategy, building assets, and creating passive income, the game completely changes. Now the decision is in your hands. You can keep doing more of the same, expecting a different result, or you can start today to change the way you think and act. You can start small, learn more about financial education, develop a high-value skill, take the first step toward building something that doesn't depend only on your time. The goal isn't to do everything, it's to start right. And tell me in the comments, What was the biggest shift for you in this video? What made you rethink the way you're dealing with money? I really want to hear your perspective. And if this content made you see something you had never noticed before, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because from now on, you're going to start seeing money in a way most people never do.